Hi everyone and welcome to my channel Karoline's Knits. My name is Karoline and I live in Scotland with my husband Ben, my dog Fela, and we are expecting a little baby girl in October. I am originally Danish, but I moved to Scotland almost 10 years ago, and it is currently morning time, not a time I would usually film. Also downstairs, not a place I would usually film. And the garden door is open because I wanted the dog to have the opportunity to go outside if she so desired, because I knew we hadn't been out for a nice long adventure beforehand. So we'll see how it goes. I am currently about 3 weeks away from my third trimester, so coming to the very tail end of my second trimester, and I'm definitely starting to feel like my organs don't have as much room. So I do apologise that the out of breathness is probably even worse than it was in the last episode. And finally, I wanted to say a big thank you to all of you who left really lovely comments and congratulations on my last video. I'm so glad I could put it out there, and then my sporadic posting ever since has not felt as deceitful to me somehow. So I'm glad it's out there, even though I do not really share too much about pregnancy and upcoming motherhood, because I don't think people are that interested in it. There are going to be a few baby knits. I'll start out with the one thing that isn't at first if you don't want to see anything about baby knits. But I should say that I feel like today a lot of the projects are really good stash busting projects. So maybe you might find it interesting if you, like me, always buy an extra ball or two and never always end up with too much yarn and you never know what to do with it because there's only so many hats and that kind of thing that you could need yourself. So we go on to the baby knits later, but let's start out with what I'm wearing today. So this is my latest finished object. This is the Petite Knit Eva cardigan. It is quite an interesting construction on the shoulder, which I'm actually not sure I know the name of. You kind of start front and back, well, you start the back, pick up for the front, and then you kind of pick up here in the shoulder before you then continue into a raglan. I basically knitted it completely to pattern. I think I added maybe a little bit more length on the body because I'm quite tall. I might have added a little bit of length on the sleeves as well. In general, I always tend to add length, and I think the Eva cardigan is very much this oversized, I think someone called it like a grandpa fit. So it's meant to have that little bit like oversized, like it's a bit longer than a normal cardigan kind of look. And I thought to complement my cardigan number one, my jacket number one for my favourite things knitwear, that it was best I knitted something that was a lot longer, because jacket number one on me is much shorter. It's also textured, so I feel like these two have like a very different look and fit and style, even though I will probably wear them the exact same way, because as we are in summer, it works really well as an extra layer with a cardigan. I'm really growing to like it. As you can tell, it's literally fresh off the blocking mats yesterday. The sleeves are still very long, but I think that's a good thing, because I find as you wear it, your elbow will usually create a crease up here and it shortens it. And if not, I like a long sleeve. I am definitely preferably on my hand kind of length. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I have to say that it was an absolute slug knitting flat. I do feel like this project really truly took forever, and there were many moments where I considered giving up. It is DK weight. I knit it in, I think I do have one complete ball down here, so I will show you. I knitted it in Lana Gatto Maxi VIP, which I bought from Knit. She no longer stocks Maxi VIP because Maxi VIP is exclusive to Smuksagarn. I think that's Smuksagarn in Aarhus. This is the colour 10011, so I think they call it maybe cream or beige or something. It's a very neutral colour, but it's this kind of like greyish, I would say. It's very cool toned. It's definitely not like a warm colour. This is an absolutely beautiful yarn. It is 80% merino and 20% cashmere, I think. Yeah, and it is non-superwash, but it's so soft and squishy, and this has 0 itch factor. Like, it is just beautiful. So that's why I knitted it in. I do think it is going to pill so much. You can, as I was knitting, I'm noticing pills sometimes forming just purely from the process of knitting. So I reckon this is going to be one where I'm going to have to shave it loads. I also mean that it's not going to be a piece I can own for as long as if I knitted an incredibly rustic yarn. But I think it's okay sometimes to have garments serve different purposes. But as I was saying, I found the knitting flat an absolute slog. As much as this yarn is really lovely, and it wasn't, like, sometimes I think things can be a slog if you're not enjoying knitting in the yarn. I very much enjoyed knitting in this. But it's just, the body is so long, and I was very, very keen to make sure that I 100% knitted the length I wanted, because I am terrible for being like, this must be long enough, and then even once it's like washed and blocked, being like, I kind of wish I had like sat through another few centimeters. I guess the good thing is that when you knit something flat, it is incredibly mindless, and you can always take it places, and even if you add a few centimeters a day, you're still adding length. If I keep looking down, it's because this is where I've put my notes. There is a bit of rowing out across the cardigan. So rowing out, in case you've not heard that term before, is when your knits and purl sides, when knitting flats, have different tensions. So you get a different gauge. It kind of gives like a little bit of like an uneven look. I do think actually more of it even out with blocking than I kind of expected. And one thing, I think it's very obvious here on the shoulder, actually going into where I then knitted the sleeves in the round. But that being said, even, it's full of dog hair, even where I knitted the sleeves in the round, I still found that the sort of like evenness of the yarn itself isn't perfect. So that means that, like, I think sometimes if you're really bad rowing out and then you knit sleeves in the round, you can get really, really obvious differences. I've had that in the past, but it's not too bad. And at the end of the day, I decided that it's something mainly knitters would notice. And I kind of reached a point, I was like, this is a point of no return. I am not ripping back this cardigan for rowing out. I did change it to have 2 different size needles so that I could have more of an even tension. I don't know how well that worked, but I gave it a go. Sorry, I could hear next door getting in. So yeah, I think it helped a little bit, but it's definitely not perfect. For this cardigan especially, I have to say that there is something magical about blocking. This cardigan is knit with double ribbing, which I don't generally like. It's generally something that if I could modify it, I would probably not knit it. However, I decided for this cardigan it was kind of part of the look, and yeah, I changed my mind on it a little bit. I still think I prefer a normal rib. I think the thing about a double rib is that I do think it needs to be stretched out. I don't think it looks as neat when it's condensed, or at least it didn't on this project. It's hard to always make generalizations. I'm sure there's a project where I do think the rib should, you know, kind of be pulled together. But before blocking, when I put on the shoulder fit up here where you kind of picked up stitches and stuff, it was just that kind of like how things just naturally like scrunch up a little bit, or if the ribbing kind of, excuse me, felt a bit uneven. Obviously you do, the pattern says to just bind up off in rib, and I think especially on the sleeves, because the ribbing had pulled together loads, the bind off just looked really messy and not very nice. And yeah, there's just lots of fit things where I was like, this just needs a really, really good block. And after blocking it, it looks so much better. Like blocking is honestly magic. I don't know how people don't block. Hopefully you can't see too many long ends. I always leave a little bit of an extra long end before I wash my knits. I always weave in all my ends before blocking, because I watched Suzanne Bryan make a comparison of what happens to the yarn when it's been wet blocked, and it basically just means that there's a lot less of a chance of things unraveling. I also think prior to washing, it was really obvious, like incredibly obvious on the knit where I had woven in ends, and you can't see it now. So I am very, very happy with the blocking of this, and I was very happy to have my blocking mats. It wasn't even that wet. I always spin in my washing machine, spin and drain, no rinse, because if Petite Knit can do it to all her knits, I am sure my knits will be fine. and it cuts down the drying time by well over a day when it has had most of the water slung out. And I also think sometimes if you like, even if you try to like get all of the water out in a towel, I never think you get as good a result beforehand. And if it's soaking wet and you put on a blocking mat, like a garment like this that's quite big and thick, you're just gonna struggle to get all the water out. If I'm making like some of the baby patterns I'm gonna show you, I probably wouldn't spin all of them. I would probably just roll them in a towel for ease, but this I definitely did. So yeah, blocking, absolutely magical, completely fixed this project, because when I first tried it on after completely finishing it, because everything looks the best when the button band is on, I think, I was like, it's nice, but after finishing it all, I really like the fit of it. I think it has that oversized feel. I did knit this according to the size that I would be with my current bust measurement. Being pregnant, I obviously have a bigger bust than I would usually have at my current weight, and I'm finding it a little bit hard to dress with, but I decided that it wasn't a bad thing to have extra room. This kind of style, you could probably, depending on what I am after birth, if I'm a bigger size, I think it'll still fit. If I'm a small size, I think it'll still fit. So that was another motivating factor for picking a pattern like this that isn't like very fitted. I had considered knitting something like the April cardigan by Petite Knit, which I might do, which is a much more like fitted saddle shoulder-ish fit, and yeah, much more fitted sleeve. But I thought at the moment it's probably best to have more room. And the final thing I wanted to say is that I did use up most of this yarn. This yarn has been in my stash. I know I bought it when the Louvre cardigan by Petite Knit was brought out, because I knew that Knit or Simona was about to stop stocking this yarn and I really wanted it. So I bought a sweater cardigan's, I bought a sweater quantities amount of it, but I didn't know, like I didn't immediately cast on that project. However, like I bought it for the Louvre sweater thinking that's what it was going to be, but it just never really felt right for the yarn. And then it kind of became one of those special yarns that you are too scared to use. And I think lots of people can relate to that. You end up having special sweater quantities. And in these past few months, you might have noticed that last year as I was knitting through my stash, I very much focused on knitting some of the things that have been in my stash the longest. And now I'm trying to work through the yarns that I have stayed in my stash, because I was nervous I wasn't going to find the perfect project for it, because for whatever reason this yarn feels hard to reach. I think it's because I learned to knit during the pandemic, where getting any form of like neutral coloured yarn was impossible, because everyone was knitting in the pandemic and everyone wanted to knit in beige. But obviously there's not as much scarcity anymore, I don't think. I think it's much easier to buy another neutral colour. So I'm trying to tell myself that if I made this project and I didn't end up loving it, even if I didn't rip it back, I can knit another beige project in the future, just with a different yarn. So I am really, really glad to have used it up, because it was taking up a lot of room and it's such a beautiful yarn. It also seemed like a waste that I wasn't making anything of it. I do have basically this full ball and then what will amount to just under a full ball. And my current plan is that in this, the Sandnes Mook Start knitting like booklet, pattern booklet, I've spoken about this a million times. You will see more patterns from it later. There is a DK weight cardigan and it goes down, the smallest size is 3 months, and it says it needs 2 balls of yarn. And I'm currently thinking I will make a cardigan with this. I know she won't, like, I probably won't use it on her very much, but even if I buy one cute outfit and she wears the cardigan and that's the memory of this yarn and her, that's enough for me. So that's the current plan. I'm going to Denmark this weekend actually, so I plan this might be one of the projects I bring, because a little baby cardigan would be so easy to make. I'll see if I can find the picture. So it is a very standard like raglan cardigan, and then I think it has got stitch edgings. You actually knit the button band on at the same time, I think, which might just make my life a little bit easier. But yeah, not that there's anything in particular like overly special, but I would absolutely love for all of this yarn to be fully out of my stash, and I currently have the perfect excuse because I can always find something to make for baby. So that's my Eva cardigan, and I am now going to move on to some of the baby projects. So as I was saying about the booklet, I have been stash busting. So one of the projects is from in there. I will link it below, which I think I usually do. I'm just trying to see if they're still, here they are. So I feel like last time I definitely hit peak like desperation to knit after feeling terrible after in my first trimester, but I think I kind of struggled to even know where to begin. So I think I'm very much focused on thinking of things that uses up yarn I already have in my stash instead of buying loads of new yarn. And I decided to give myself a little bit of a stash busting challenge and kind of work through some of the yarn once again, like some of the stash that I've maybe saved because could become something in the future. It's never become anything, it just has just lived in my stash. I should say that this was gifted for a test knit I did for my favourite things knitwear like 2 years ago. It is, all of these were knitted in Knitting for Olive heavy merino, and I can't remember the exact colour of this. I always keep my description box with all the details, so if you want to see it you can see it down there. On Ravelry I have all of the specific amounts for each of these 3 projects if you're also looking to stash bust. And I feel like all of these are like a bit like now with the cardigan. If you finish a cardigan and you have 1 or 2 balls, it's the perfect like easy to carry around, because a lot of these, you know, these projects are small, they're very easy to take with you. They're the perfect, just make them and then you always have something to give away. I think even though baby girl won't be wearing tiny baby knits forever, I can definitely see the joy in using up stash. And I am at an age where I do know people having babies, and it's not a bad thing to maybe have a little bit of stash of baby knits you could give away, or maybe in the future I'll have another baby to put in them. So I started out by making these, which are the Mini Bjørn Tufler from Your Strik, which is a Norwegian designer. These do come in English, and they're these little booties that have little ears on them and a little bare face. I did make a mistake in the pattern, so my garter stitch goes up considerably higher on the booties than they're meant to. And I only realised this after finishing one booty, and I was like, I don't think it matters enough to rip it back. But these are very, very cute. Took a little bit, I found the pattern the first time really hard to wrap my head around, so I feel like the first booty took me a lot longer than it should have, and then by the second one I kind of knew what I was expected to do with the shaping of the foot, because they are knitted at first, they're knitted flat and you seam up the bottom of them later. But I do think they are just absolutely adorable, and as we are having essentially a Halloween baby, I feel like this is the perfect sort of winter accessories, just holding them like this and my hands are feeling nice and toasty. So yes, these were the first ones. They are a little bit fiddly with like finishing off the ears and finishing off the face, but not too bad, I don't think. Then after I had made those, I kind of knew I wanted like a matching cold weather set. So in this booklet, they have this, which is like a bear bonnet. There's some other pictures in here, but I will spare you. But essentially it's just a bonnet that has bear's ears on it. So I decided to make that. I did slightly change how the ears were made, which I have described on Ravelry, just so they looked more similar to the ones on here. The bear ears that they describe is, I think, sounds quite fiddly. So it has an edging of double ribbing. You kind of knit the bonnet and do the decreases here in the back, and then you pick up and knit just a normal rib, and then you do an I-cord for either side. That again, you pick up and knit an I-cord, which will be used to tie the bonnet. There are, as you can tell, a few ends that I need to properly snip. As I said, I always block with long ends. You can always snip them shorter afterwards, so there are like a few that I would probably snip before actually using it. But yeah, very, very cute. This knitted up quite fast, and again, I'm intrigued to see how the fit is, but from what I have seen of baby heads, it looks fairly baby shaped. I tried to put on Fela, she was not having it, so I won't force her to model it for you. And I still had more yarn left. I should say, I think I started with less than 2 balls of heavy merino, And then I decided that the very last thing I was going to make for now, because I still have, I think I still have about less than 20 grams left of heavy merino. So if anyone has any ideas what you can make of that, let me know. Maybe I'll make like a scrunchie or a bow, maybe a Christmas decoration I was thinking. Excuse me. But the final thing I made were these little mittens. So these are like proper newborn baby mitts in the sense that they don't have thumbs. They're just like a little tube that you put on baby hands. And this was a free pattern that I found on Ravelry. I don't think I made any major adjustments. I quite liked that it had the double ribbing like the hat did, but again, wasn't too important to me. And these are definitely very cute and small. I think I used less than 10 grams of yarn for these. Again, perfect if you finish a project and you have so little of the yarn left, you don't know what to do with it. And I think again, they're quite a useful addition to any little baby present, and they're just cute and tiny. So this is like my little stash busting project of less than 2 balls of heavy merino, which again, I think is really good, because what's really shocked me is that baby socks are really expensive. Like baby feet are tiny. So yeah, I'm glad to have some little booties and gloves and all of this. And if we don't end up using it loads, at least I enjoyed making it, and I can take 1 or 2 cute photos and then save it. But I reckon all of these will end up being quite useful. And as I said, it is truly quick gratification as well. A lot of like these projects are like an evening or 2 kind of projects. They are very, very easy, and I think the more you knit them, the easier it kind of gets. So I do remember there was a Norwegian knitter whose name I can't remember, who used to post about how every time she finished a project, she would essentially do a stash busting baby project. And I quite like that idea, that as soon as you finish a big project, you would immediately use up as much as you could for some kind of stash busting project. And as I work through my stash, I might have to do that more, because I am definitely going to be in a different financial position once baby is here, and I won't be able to just go out and spend 100 quid on lots of projects and then not use up all the yarn afterwards, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's a little bit more sustainable in the long term, probably. Though I have to say, I have not bought loads and loads of yarn since I made a video about how much yarn is in my stash. For the next one, I might calculate, do the spreadsheet again and see how much yarn is left, because since then I have made quite a few like full-sized garment projects. But even then, I have to say that you can't see it in my drawers, and I think sometimes that's the maddest thing. I know I've worked through many 100 grams of yarn, but my stash still looks the exact same size. So I will still be knitting from stash for a long time. So all of these ideas of like 1 in, 1 out kind of thing, they're definitely far off. Now, the final sort of finished object, I haven't actually marked it as finished on Ravelry because I still need to do the last bit of finishing. But the annoying thing is that Baby Brain Me remembers, it's this little wrap, which I don't think looks that good. I think I ended up knitting the body longer than I kind of intended, so it looks a little bit awkward, but this is what it looks like. It is also, you guessed it, from the Sandnes booklet. I think I'd started this last time, or was about to, and it has some double folded edges. I did add ribbing on the sleeves because I thought it means I can much earlier just roll up the sleeves and she can wear it for a little bit longer. And also because I don't think like a sewn edge like this has a lot of stretch to it, and I was like, I don't, you know, little chunky baby hands, you don't want them to be tight on the cuff. So I just did a little bit of ribbing instead, and some I did an Italian bind off because I think it gives the best stretch, and it was so few stitches it really didn't take long. So the finishing touch for this is I need to sew snappers to sort of snap one half to the other, and I might want to do one on here as well to kind of keep everything in place. And then the pattern recommends that you sew on decorative buttons, probably on top of the snaps, because I can't think of a way to sew on the snaps without the thread obviously being visible on the other side. However, I remember going into my stash and finding some buttons I had saved, or like that I just had around, that I wanted to put on this project. I also had deliberately ordered a sewing thread colour that matched this. What's my dog doing? She's a silly goose. Anyway, I'd bought some sort of cream coloured sewing yarn, or like a thread, sorry, sewing yarn. Can you tell I'm a knitter? Some sewing thread in like a creamy colour that would go with this. And I'd put it to like one side. I had like some really nice sewing needles, so I'd also put them in, and I remember putting them in a Ziploc bag and putting them in one place, thinking when I'm ready I can do all the finishing and I know it's all in there. I cannot for the life of me find it. In our spare room, the spare room used to be in the middle of the room, and there is a side that I now can't access because we've pushed it up against the wall as we kind of prepare for baby, but it might be in there. I hope it is, because I have looked through my stash, anywhere I keep yarn, the office, all my project bags. I've literally turned things inside out to find the stupid Ziploc bag, and I haven't found it. So I went to Hobbycraft. It's actually where the Eva cardigan buttons were from. I forgot to say that they're these like black square cardigan or black square buttons. I went to Hobbycraft and I bought the snaps because I knew the snaps were in this side of the stash I currently can't get to. So I bought those again to finish it off, and now can't do it. And I feel like if this continues, I will honestly just go to Hobbycraft and buy it new. But it's just so annoying because I know I bought it, I know I put it somewhere, and I just can't find it. So I'm waiting for that to truly finish this off. And I'm also planning to make matching trousers. I think I just needed a little bit of break from this yarn. This is an absolutely beautiful hand-dyed yarn by Zakami that I bought intending to knit something for myself and never did. But it is just very bright, and yeah, I kind of didn't feel like knitting a pair of matching trousers just yet. Also because this is, I knitted this in size 6 months, 6 to 9 I think, or like not a teeny tiny baby size. So I know she won't be wearing this when she's very first born anyway, so I have a little bit of time. But that's coming up, and that's my final like finished object. Let's go to some whips. First of all, I will show you what I am hoping to finish in the next few days. So I recently went away for a weekend with my knitting friends. So that's Simona from Knit, Lissy from Hive Knits, Sophie from the Knit Purl Girl, and Laura from Penrose Knits. It's hard to remember all the handles, and yeah, they're obviously my little knitting group. We've been a knitting group for quite a few years now, and this is our first time, all of us meeting up for like a weekend away, because we all met up for Lissy's wedding, and all of them besides Simona came to my wedding. So we have met in person before, but this is the first time we went away with like, the only purpose was to relax and knit, and it was amazing. I will show you some of the amazing things that they brought me later on, but basically they'd all made knits that matches knits that I own, so that it was like, you know, mummy and baby matching. And I don't know why before that hadn't very much been on my radar, but then as soon as I saw it, I was like, I love this idea of things me and baby girl can wear that matches. While we were away, the little town that we stayed in Tideswell, also had a yarn shop, and obviously we had to go to the yarn shop. So in the yarn shop, I wanted to buy things for mummy and me match. Shocking. So I bought 2 skeins of this yarn. So the shop was called Peak District Yarns, and she mainly sold hand-dyed yarns. She also does like hand dyeing workshops, which I'm sure would be great fun. She was really, really lovely, and the shop was really nice. So I bought 2 skeins of this because I was immediately attracted to this dark red colour. And this is the Simply Sock Club April 24, and this is a 70% merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon fingering weight yarn. And then I bought this mini to contrast with for socks. I bought 2 skeins because the mummy and me match plan is a pair of socks. I'm currently knitting the baby ones, so I will show you those, and then a pair for me. And then I really want to make, in this, there's a bonnet that's like lace all over, and I would very much like to make that with that yarn because I think it would be very, very beautiful. And if there's anything left of this, I feel like this is a colour. I have lots of Arvetta in marzipan. You could use that for like, you know, stripy cuff. And then I bought this originally to knit socks that would have this contrast colour in it, but I haven't, and as much as these go beautifully together, I might hold it with something else. I'm a little bit undecided, but I will quickly show you the socks. So these are the Piquant socks from, well, she's called Studio Guth on Instagram, but I don't actually know what her official designer handle is. I will put it on, but it's these little socks that have like a lace pattern on them, a very simple lace pattern I should say. They're also full of dog hair. They are knee-high socks that have a folded over edge, and then they're just quite simple. I realised yesterday that I forgot to do some decreases before doing the heel, so I am going to have the joy of taking that back today and just do the decreases and fix it. But I knitted essentially the whole cuff in a lunch break. It is quite a fast knit, and once you kind of get used to the lace, it's not too bad. And I already noticed that this was knitting up quicker than this one. So I had, she recommends that you knit down the edge, and it was causing me so much grief on the second one. The first one was fine, but the second one wasn't. But hey ho, it got done. Just need to fix the heel, and then I can honestly probably finish the rest of the sock tonight and they would be done. She also makes this pattern in an adult size, so I should say while the baby socks are available in English, I don't think the adult socks are. I think they're only available in Norwegian. So just before you go buy it and like me and then realise you have to knit from a Norwegian pattern, which I think would be fine for me, but obviously I do speak Danish, and Norwegian and Danish are fairly similar. So I'm planning to make essentially the adult version. I think for the adult version I won't do the folded cuff, I would rather have ribbing, so I will do ribbing instead. So I'm planning to make that, and I think they're really cute and they're very Christmassy. She will hopefully fit into them by Christmas, and if not, she can wear them some other time. This project is definitely one I am making just because it brings me joy. So that's one of my whips. Before I move on to my final one, because it's not that interesting, I'm just going to show you the knits that the knit girls brought me, so you can see them all. Just picking them up. So first of all, I'm going to show you Sophie's, which is this very cute little bear. So this is the colour Red Squirrel in Arvetta, which is my favourite colour. Very, very cute. There's definitely an inside joke to this that I will spare you all, but we had a great time laughing. Simona made me, it's all, I should have folded this much more neatly, shouldn't I? You might be able to see what this is a Mummy and Me match for. So this is the Eva cardigan. I don't know if it's junior, because this is size 1 year, so it might be junior. A baby cardigan, an Eva cardigan to match this cardigan. I still need to sew in the buttons on this one, but I haven't decided yet. Originally I was going to buy some different buttons for this cardigan to buy enough for the baby cardigan, but I already had these and I was like, I kind of want to just use it. And the buttons I was looking to buy, I would have to spend about £20 on buttons, and honestly I got a little bit cheap. The dog's trying to dig down a tree outside, but yes, this is adorable, and I'm very excited size 1 year, because I know, like, I feel like I'll get so much more use out of it, because she will not be growing as quick as she will be in the very first wee while. And it's not really a size that I'm thinking about making things for, so now she has, I'll show you the other ones, she has quite a few things that'll fit her in size 1 year. I know Simona used Sunday Held Double for this. I don't know what colour Sunday this is, but it's probably kit or something else very neutral to match. Then we have what Lissy made, which is this beautiful fern dress by Knitting for Olive. So this is knitted in Knitting for Olive, Merino and Claret, and it matches my fern sweater. My fern sweater does have the soft silk mohair, and that is like a more saturated red in the claret, I think, but I think we both agree it doesn't really matter, and both of us really like this colour, and I think this will be absolutely beautiful once it fits. This is also size 1 year, and that means she should be able to fit it into her second, like for her second Christmas, which I'm quite excited by. So I can wear my fern sweater and she can wear the fern dress, and it's just beautiful. From other people, I've actually heard that knitting for olive merino is a great baby yarn because it is, they don't call it superwash, but it should wash fine in the machine, so that's really good too. And this colour I just love. As you can probably tell, there's a reason why I bought this colour. It's just one I'm always drawn to. And then Laura made me, first of all, the school run, I had to think about that for a minute, the school run headband. Now, it's been so long since I've shown it, but I actually have one in a dark, like burgundy red as well, the school run headband, and it is actually one of my absolute most worn knits because I much prefer wearing headbands in winter time when I take the dog for a walk, mainly because you can have your hair up and away, which I find is a bit annoying with a hat, and I've always loved the edging, so I absolutely love that little baby girl will have a matching one. And this is the smaller size in the pattern. I think Laura thought it might, I don't know how soon it will fit her, we'll have to wait and see, but yeah, and I love this colour, some kind of hand-dyed yarn. And then the big project that she made, which is just beautiful, is this. This is the Celeste sweater by Petite Knit. Once again, either baby or junior, but I think it's junior when it's over 1 year. I don't actually know if she's made the Celeste in the baby pattern. You might recognise this because this is one of my more recently finished projects, which I actually started when I was, well, not started, but that I planned out when I went to Lissy's wedding. So it feels extra special in that sense that it's like a pattern that reminds me of being away for Lissy's wedding. Now, this is knitted in, the main colour is a heavy merino, which I'm not sure what colour of heavy merino. And then, just like me, she just used different bits from her stash to do the colour work. I think she said it was a bit of a nightmare because the colour work is a different length across the two patterns. So she kind of had to look at pictures and guess. Because I think for mine, I did adjust the final colour. I changed to white. It's meant to be another colour, but I wanted to make sure that the final bit had good contrast. And then Sophie rightly pointed out it kind of looks like sheep. But yes, she used heavy merino because she told me she couldn't get gauge with Lana Peruvian Highland wool, which is what I used for mine, which is probably a sign maybe I didn't either and just kept knitting anyway. So she's a much more diligent knitter than me. But heavy merino is, in my opinion, lovelier than Lana Peruvian Highland wool, because I think over time heavy merino kind of almost goes a bit brushed feeling, like it really softens up and blooms in use. Whereas the one, like the Lana that I use single strand for my Celeste cardigan, it peels so much. After every single wear, it could use a depil, and that's a bit annoying. I think I held Lana Peruvian Highland wool with Telia for my jacket #1, and I don't find it peels as much when held with mohair, but it still peels loads. So actually it was probably better that she made it in heavy merino, but I think it's just so cute and adorable. And as it's size 1 year as well, it's something she can use when it gets really cold again. So these were honestly some of the most thoughtful and wonderful presents, and I'm sure if you're a knitter, you understand the love and effort that goes into making these, and I absolutely love that we'll be matching. And as I said, it's sizes that I wasn't even thinking about knitting, so it's really exciting. Now, my final whip, I'm just going to show you the progress on, because I am hoping next time it's done, is the blanket that I am knitting once again from Sandnes booklet, which has grown a little bit, still has a little bit to go. I think I have 2 balls left of the main colour, so my plan is when they're used up, this blanket is done. I don't know if you can spot my mistake, but essentially when I started knitting this, as I said, I was just coming out of the first trimester, and I'm not sure my brain was quite back to functioning yet. So I realised when I'd done the second stripe that I had changed the amount of rows between the stripes, and as much as it's not fingering weight lace blanket, so it's not too bad, it still takes quite a lot of time to knit. And I just looked at it and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do 2 stripes with the same distance and then add 2 extra rows every time, and it will just create a little bit of a different effect where they get closer and closer visually, which, you know what, I don't mind. It does mean I don't use up as much of the vetta, which I'd kind of hope for, but I can make something else with that once I'm done. I also think, I don't think it's looking massive, but you can almost see it just as I hold it. Like, I reckon once this gets washed, it's going to grow. So yeah, I'm just going to use up the yarn, see where I get to. This actually lives next to my home working desk. It's starting to reach a size now where you can, like, I've taken it on car journeys because it's quite a good car knitting actually, but it's not like a great size to like have with you places, I don't think. And so it's perfect that sometimes if I have a meeting and I'm like, right, I could get in a few rows, I just do that. And it has, excuse me, kind of worked in making sure it grows a little bit. So yeah, that's my final cast on. And that is it. I obviously just finished the Eva cardigan, and I have quite enjoyed having a big project for me that is like fully working from stash on, and then a smaller project that's baby orientated. So I'm going to count the socks as that, and then I think as I'm going to Denmark this weekend, I might actually for once kind of break that rule and just finish using up the Maxi VIP on baby cardigan, because I don't want to take loads. I'm just going from Thursday to Monday, so I don't know how much knitting time I'll actually have, but any time I do have I would like to use productively. So I'll probably finish off the baby socks and cast on the adult ones, and then take the baby cardigan to knit, and I think that's going to be it. I am hoping to go for a little bit of yarn browsing while I'm back home, so I'll have to see. I do have a few things Mum and I have bought secondhand off Facebook Marketplace that are baby related, that are just easier and cheaper to get in Denmark, so I'll have to drag that across. So I won't have loads of suitcase space, and I am not quite sure what I want my next big garment to be, because it is kind of hard to, like, I don't know if I have the stamina to knit yet another cardigan. But equally, I am obviously reaching a point where bump is getting to a size where I do probably need to think about that. But then, a bit like when it comes to clothing, I feel like I'm so close to being at the end now that, you know, I can push through the last bit. So I have been spending the past about 5 days panicking about what I'm going to make, because I usually actually always like to have cast on my like next big project. If you watch for a while, you'll know that I tend to have 2 projects cast on and actively working on. So the third project for me obviously is currently the blanket, because it just lives in the home office. It doesn't really count, doesn't really move out of there. But yeah, always feel a bit lost when I'm then down to like 1 project. So I have to wait and see, and I will keep you posted. I feel like I've spoken a lot more today than I'd kind of expected, but I'm really glad that I finally came back and spoke to you. I've been wanting to finish the Eva cardigan before I came back, because I know that lots of people aren't interested in baby knits. But thank you so much for sticking around, for watching, for leaving comments, and I will hopefully see you soon. There aren't that many interesting updates because preparing for baby is quite time consuming, and we've mainly been doing what I said last time, which is decluttering, preparing, enjoying lots of chill time, because I know that will be hard once baby's here, and that's pretty much what life has been. I also have just not been knitting as much because I've been more tired and uncomfortable in my body. I've been napping a lot more, so just not as much knitting time as I would usually have. So yeah, might be a little while before I come back, but I hope to come back at least once or twice before she gets here. And thank you once again, and that's me trying to sign off. And and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.